Welcome, everyone, to this week's episode of Talk Exchange. Today we have with us Stacy Rogers and Sawn Swenson of the Colonial Flag Foundation, joining a conversation with Tracy and Christy. And the Colonial Flag Foundation is an organization that I imagine most of our listeners have heard about and many probably participate in. And, you know, it's just another example of Exchange Club members doing some truly amazing things in service for others. So we hope you enjoy today's episode of Talk Exchange, and we will see you again next week.
Welcome to Talk Exchange. I'm Tracy Edwards, CEO of the National Exchange Club.
And I'm Christy Lindahl, Director of Communications.
Awesome. Hi, Christy.
Hey, Tracy.
How's your day going?
Whew, we've been busy, haven't we?
We have been. I know. It seems like we've had a full day, getting a lot done and talking to some great people on the podcast. And I'm excited about our next guests who we love and know very well as a result of our longtime partnership. They're joining us from Utah, where they are headquartered. And we're joined today by Stacy Rogers, the Executive Director of the Colonial Flag Foundation, and Sawn Swenson, the National Outreach Director. So welcome, ladies. Good to see you today.
Thank you so much for having us. We're so excited to be here and have this opportunity with you guys.
Well, we are too, and we appreciate it, especially because we've just learned that today you're getting ready for 9/11, all of the fields that are coming up then, and then going right into Veterans Day. So we know it's a busy time, and I see a lot of people milling around there at the office. So you have a lot of work to do. We know that a lot of exchange clubs across the country are planning fields. And you know what? Christy and I were talking, we said right away, we think it would be helpful to understand the difference and for our audience to understand the difference between a healing field and a field of flags, and take us through some of the terminology of these fields.
Well, initially, when the program started, it was called a healing field because, it basically named itself because people that watched through the first few fields just said how for the first time since the 9/11, which was when this whole thing was conceived, they had felt a sense of healing. Mm-hmm. And so it basically named itself, and it would just seem appropriate to call it healing field. But then as time went on and we, progressed into doing more and more of these flag displays across the country, people wanted to do it for different occasions, rather than just a solemn memorial. And so, we were asked if we could come up with a different name besides just healing field. And so Field of Honor seemed appropriate because it seemed a little bit more all-inclusive because, it was going to honor local holidays or traditions, like 4th of July, celebratory type things, or just honor people that were, hometown heroes and local heroes and stuff like that. And actually, the first one was the dedication to the Air Force, museum, I guess it was, back in Washington, D.C. And so, they're the ones that wanted to primarily call it a Field of Honor. So, and I can't remember the date on that, excuse me. But anyway, that's the difference. The only difference really is the name and what you conceive as the theme or the purpose of your field.
Okay,
great
That
explanation.
helps. Yeah, absolutely. Every time we're together, I really get the feeling, and I understand from knowing you for a long time, Sawn, and you too, Stacy, and your brother, son, Paul, who founded Colonial Flag Foundation, how important this project is to both of you. But also it always strikes me about how important exchange is to you and the relationship with our clubs and with the National Exchange Club. And we're so grateful for that support and partnership for all of these years. And it goes back a lot of years. So tell us why this remains important, because every time I talk to either of you or Paul, it just strikes me how important this is to you.
Well, primarily, it goes back to the whole beginning of, Paul conceiving the idea to do this and our upbringing and everything, which I could give you a little bit about our background. But, to jump forward to your question, our first partnership was with, basically like an outside group, was with the National Exchange Club. Mm-hmm. As we grew from, just a couple of cities and towns around the country wanting us to help them set up a display like we did that first year in Sandy. It went to, more and more people asking us, and it was initially we helped out a bank, do something like that in their city and whatnot. And then the National Exchange Club, we actually had a member of the National Exchange Club working with us, and she just basically talked to a local committee, and one thing led to another where it just seemed like the most perfect fit. I know we're all passionate about children, but particularly I think Paul and Elizabeth, they have their own personal story about children and how important it is to them. But also, with Paul and I, and our upbringing and whatnot, we're passionate about this country, and we were raised to basically feel the need to earn all that we have, in this country, and the sacrifices that have been made on our behalf. And the National Exchange Club has that wonderful Americanism program. It was like, wow, what a perfect combination there, and what a great opportunity to work together and enrich the country, in this effort to, it just seemed like the most perfect fit. And we want to continue to make that happen because it's such a perfect tie-in. And I really think that we're able to help each other, in our mission of going out there and, helping to teach children about patriotism and how they can earn the blessings that they have, as well as, helping you all with our partnership in donating funds to the National Exchange Club Foundation, which helps, that overall need to help those children that can't help themselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. We even see some clubs do healing fields where it relates to the prevention of child abuse in their communities. So it's kind of come full circle in that regard as well.
Absolutely. And
Absolutely.
we're excited about the fact that after some study, our National Board of Directors approved then and added a field of flags to our portfolio, which allows clubs to earn the Big E, which is a very coveted award in exchange. And I know we've been talking about that, and just, letting clubs know that this now qualifies them to earn the Big E. So we definitely foresee an increase in these fields and appreciate your partnership and support. So if a club is listening to this and they've not done a field before, what would you recommend? How would they start? Because, what do you recommend they do first, and what can they expect throughout the process?
Well, first thing is that they need to reach out to us. And then what we'll do is we'll get them all the information that they need, if they even still need to present it to the rest of their club members. We even offer a private Zoom meeting where we can sit in on their meetings and answer any questions that they have, so it doesn't just fall on one person trying to get all the notes down. And then once they decide that they want to proceed with their event, we would send them our event licensing agreement, because they do have to be registered with us. These are patented programs that are protected by trademark. And then once they fill out the paperwork, they send it back to us with the licensing fee. Then we go and we get them set up for everything. They get their own webpage. They get their own e-commerce. We have our wonderful area that's our members area that they'll have access to. And in there, we have taken our over 20 years of experience and thousands of events nationwide and pulled everything that works and put it all in this one spot for them, so that they aren't out there trying to figure things out, reinvent the wheel, or even spinning their wheels. So they're basically turnkey programs. We try to make it as easy for them as possible. So everybody on their committee will have their own training module for the specific job that they do. So it's a wonderful program, and it really helps streamline everything for them. It's digital, so they can access it off any kind of device. And then we give them a web page. We handle all their e-commerce for people to go on and sponsor a flag and dedicate that flag in honor of somebody. We also do a lot of advertising for them, marketing to get the word out for them. We do Facebook ads, a lot of social media stuff. We also do press releases for them, for both locally and nationally, to help them get the word out. Um, we offer so many different things. I could literally sit here for the hour and just explain it all to you.
Well, that's amazing.
It is.
I wasn't expecting all of that, truthfully. So that is amazing. You have definitely a fine-tuned machine, and you have it all worked out for clubs that they can just take it with no experience and just start from scratch. And you've made it so easy on them.
Let me tell you,
Yeah.
Tracy, we had, do you recall which convention we set up the Field of Flags?
Memphis.
Memphis?
Yes.
That's right, because we had been
Yes.
postponed until September.
Yes.
I will
Yeah.
tell you, when we're talking about rescheduling a convention
Yes.
and replanning it, and then we come up with the great idea that we're doing a healing field because it's over
Yes.
September 11th.
Right.
I found myself in a bit of a panic. And we sat down, though, Stacy, on the phone. We had some meetings, and I think Sawn was there.
Yes.
I definitely know Paul was there because he
Yes.
whipped open this awesome computer program they had to show us
Right.
exactly where everything needed to be laid out.
Yes.
How
Plotted it all out.
how to
Mhm.
do it, when to take it apart, and it was that easy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, they're the pros. So thank you for guiding our clubs through that.
Mm-hmm.
It is always a labor of love. We're not going to go past that, but we do try to make it as easy as we can.
Absolutely.
And we're there from the beginning all the way to even after the end. So, yeah,
Nice.
that's our job, is to make sure that they have an organized, successful, and most importantly, an event that they can enjoy, you know.
Yes.
Something to be proud of.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Because they are life-changing events. I mean, once the community becomes involved and they start hearing all these different stories, and you can't even explain the connection you have with your community and how much it does change your life.
So if a club wanted to start the project now and they're listening to this and they said, well, gosh, I'd like to do this, and say they start small with maybe 250 flags, what type of lead time could they do that by Veterans Day, for example?
They could, the whole process, and kind of depends on the breadth and width of what kind of a display and a program you want to have, an event for your community. I mean, it could be as small as like 50 flags or whatever. There's no minimum except for if you want to do the big E.
Right.
And it could be, 3,000 or more. We do ours at 3,000 because that represents each individual that was killed 9/11, and because that's our beginning. That's our focal point. But so, I'd say, first of all, if different cities and clubs have seen other clubs and cities, don't try to compare yourself to them. Don't try to make their event yours, and think that you have to do this big, huge, massive thing, especially if they've done it for a number of years. So, I'd say, get together with your club, have a meeting, figure out exactly, what you want to try to accomplish that first year, whether it's just make an introduction, or if you know that you can get a bunch of sponsors on board and make it a larger event, fine. But, I would say that you determine what you think your club can handle, and whether it's 100, 200 flag kits, kind of make that commitment. It's a doable amount, because we need to know for inventory's sake.
Sure.
What starting point for some of these folks, and what they're able to do. So, kind of commit to that. And we can, if you're having a hard time determining the location and stuff like that, we can help you with that. But, so, as far as the starting point and the time frame, it depends on what you want to accomplish. Plus, and most important, your volunteer force. And also, who you think you can get on board for your sponsors and whatnot, because they'll help fund you and make it possible. So that's probably, the primary thing to consider. And if you have questions about if it's doable or not, that's what we're here for. In our experience of working with every kind of club you can imagine, in different sizes and numbers and whatever, we can help you determine that. And just know that, what we have done here is create something that, like Stacy said, so you don't have to reinvent the wheel or experience, spinning your wheels, basically. Back when we first started with the first healing field, and then, we didn't even know if anybody would come and show up for it. But, Paul just had this vision of a flag representing each individual. And then we didn't advertise or anything, but then people got the word across the country. And then, like I said, a few, people started contacting us wanting to get help in doing it in their area. And then from there, after more and more people started contacting us, we determined we better establish, program protocol, and then develop this foundation. And so we've done all this because people have asked us for help. It's not, we're not out there to make the mighty buck and all that stuff, because you don't create a foundation to make money. Trust me. And Paul and Elizabeth, who started all of this initially, they've invested their retirement into this, and they didn't have to do that.
Right.
They don't have to give back to the community and sacrifice their retirement and their sweet life, because they're not wealthy people. They're just normal people, and just like all of us here are, we're kind of working on a shoestring, but we do it because we want to. And our goal is to help you to experience what we've experienced and what other people have experienced, that keep asking us if they can do it and if they can get some help doing it. So, when people say, well, I can just take the flags and plant it out there, whatever. Well, but why would you want to do that? Why would you want to stress everybody in your club out, for one thing? When we've got all these experiences and programs and stuff, plus, you're investing in what we do to help other people.
Exactly.
So, it's, we applied for a patent, and gratefully we got it. And there's a reason why we got it, because it was an original idea. I don't know if anybody knows the patent process, but it's pretty extensive.
Right.
And you have to prove that they have to find that nobody else has done this before. And so, we originated it, and we want to perpetuate it so that we can continue to help, like the National Exchange Club and other service organizations that want to do charitable good things across the country. And so it's incredibly rewarding, but that's our goal, our mission, to make sure that you enjoy it like we've enjoyed it, and not stress out about things, because that can just ruin the whole effect. You don't want to. There's going to be a certain amount of stress and giving and taking and so forth, because anything worthwhile, that's what happens. That's what you've got to invest. But we think that it's and not just because we've experienced it, but the feedback we get. Holy cow, we could write volumes about not only the host committees, but people that have walked through these fields. There's, Paul was so inspired by, to do that first event. And first of all, because he's a super incredible human being, he just gives and gives and gives. And sometimes he gets in conflicts with his wife because he gives away the story. That's who he is. And so as his sister, I know he was really inspired by this idea, this vision to make this happen. And I think the powers that be knew that it was going to grow to this extent and keep growing, so that we can service people and do things to help people in many different aspects. As you're aware, all the way from, cancer victims to drug and alcohol abuse to homeless veterans and so forth. We've been able to help thousands and millions of people, actually, and help raise millions of dollars because of this inspired idea. And we have gone the extra mile to put together a program with all of our experiences to help other people. And we hope that they'll take advantage of that, because, that makes us happy too.
I can tell. Yeah.
Yes, people want to give and give back to the community and earn our status in this country and our blessings. That's what we do.
Well, that's the partnership going full circle, really. I mean, you've done the legwork to make it easy for our clubs because you want to benefit the community.
Yes.
And we partner with you specifically because you want to help our clubs benefit the community. Yes. So, yeah, it's really worked out well for everyone.
It really has. And I want to point out that Paul Swenson, the Swenson family, and Colonial Flag Foundation have historically been one of our largest donors as a result of this project. So it's important that clubs realize that too, that there's a reason why we go to you to have these fields and help them through the process. I'm just amazed by the help and support that you've put together in this package, because you make it sound like, we could do this,
Absolutely.
Oh yeah, you definitely can. And just as an example, I mean, Crossville, Tennessee, Lake Tansy, they hosted their first inaugural Field of Honor last year, and they were able to raise $60,000.
Wow, first time?
their first time field. Yeah, I mean, they got in it and they just, Mary Vesper, she just is absolutely amazing, and they worked it and they did it exactly how we lay it out, and it totally worked out for them. And so I mean, they're proven fields, proven events, and as long as they're willing to get out there and talk with their community and work it, it works.
Yeah, I mean, I remember the guidance from Paul saying, well, you need rebar. How about you contact this local vendor, in Memphis, and why don't you work with the Boy Scouts? And, he just had a lot of suggestions. There are kids and groups out there that need service hours, and this was a perfect project. They have the toolkit ready.
Now, how many flags were in that field in Crossville?
And they were 500 flags.
Nice. Yeah. Wow, that's amazing, right? And looking toward 9/11, how many fields do you expect nationwide for 9/11?
9/11, currently we have about 30 events going on right now. Yeah, and then about 28 coming up for Veterans Day.
Okay, good. Wow, nice. And I know I've been to the field in Tempe, Arizona, where you said they're coming up on their 20th anniversary, and they did that as a 9/11 memorial too, with more than 3,000 flags. That's just an amazing display when you see that number of flags set up.
Yeah.
Oh, it's crazy.
It is. I was just talking to Mark Whitaker today.
Oh, good.
Yeah, they're super excited about their event this year. So
it really is a staple out in that community too. People expect to see it.
So you've been to a number of these flags. What are some of your favorite moments as you work the field or attend the field or are out there at night? What have you seen that really stands out to you?
Why don't you tell them about the child abuse prevention one where the father brought the baby's ashes to the...
Oh, you know what? That's Paul's story. I wasn't there when that happened.
Oh, gotcha.
So, but I can tell you, I've got stories for years. But I was explaining to Laura, our new gal sitting behind me here, one that was just incredibly impactful for me. But I mean, there's a couple of them. My passion in getting involved was only because of my brother Paul, but because during 9/11, I was a flight attendant. I'm a retired flight attendant who I spent between a charter airline I worked for, Western Airlines and Delta Airlines, pushing on 30 years of flying, and so I was involved. I was flying during that whole time, and so that was a life-changing experience for people in the airline industry, needless to say. And the first anniversary coming up, I was able to go down to Ground Zero for the ceremony because I was a flight crew person, and I knew some of the firemen in New York City that were killed, so I was able to go down to that ceremony, and it was so impactful. It was just, I don't know if anybody remembers that. It was televised, but being down there, what happened when they started reading the names, the wind started picking up, and as they read more and more names, the wind got stronger and stronger and stronger, just like these beings were marching into that Ground Zero location, and it was overwhelming. Everybody noticed it was huge. And then I got on the plane and headed home to our healing field. And as I'm driving to the location from the airport, just out to Sandy where the field was, there was like this massive lineup of cars. And I'm like, what the heck is this all about, And it turned out there's like 200,000 people showing up to our field.
Oh, wow.
And then, and so I get there, and then, as all these people start walking amongst the flags, the wind picks up, and they all start going like crazy, like welcoming people, like, because each flag represented an individual that was killed. And that was just overwhelming to go from Ground Zero the same day to our healing field and seeing the 3,000 flags representing all those people that basically had just marched into that, the grounds for the ceremony, in my opinion, and that's the kind of experiences you have. You relate to these individual flags. And then we had a field at Pearl Harbor, and there'd been a big hurricane go through there, and we had a flag for each person that was killed at that point. Well, Paul and some of the people that were helping set up the field there left to go get some food and left me there to man the field by myself. Well, I have one of my best friends' father has been serving at Pearl Harbor, and her father was in the Navy at the time. Okay, now that he gets a new roommate, he comes in and right away, within about a week or two, he gets shore leave. Well, my friend's dad says, "Oh, this is crazy. I've been here for practically a year and haven't had one day of shore leave. And here you just show up, and a week later, you got shore leave." And the guy didn't want to leave. He says, "Well, after a week in Hawaii, he wanted to stay there." So my friend's dad gets on the plane and heads home to New York. And, he was there like a day. He turns on the radio on Sunday morning, and lo and behold, Pearl Harbor's attacked, and that gentleman got killed. Mm. And so my friend wanted to sponsor a flag on that Pearl Harbor field in honor of Arthur. That was his name. That who died. So her father could go on and be her father for another 80 years or so, right? Okay, so we were getting helpers from wherever we could. It was not easy at the time because we were operating, getting everything established back in Utah, trying to get things lined up in Hawaii. Well, so we arranged for Girl Scout troop to put the name tags on the field. Well, brownies showed up instead of Girl Scouts. Everything was alphabetized. Well, so these little brownies, bless their hearts, so they got these tags, and one would put one on this row, and then they'd take the other tag and go clear across the field. So now, bless their hearts. But meantime, I'm going, oh my gosh, I'm supposed to take Arthur's flag home to my friend and her family, and I'm never ever going to be able to find Arthur's flag. Well, after the hurricane, we didn't know if the winds had ever died down. By that evening, they were dead still. Okay, so I'm sitting there in this beautiful twilight, and all the flags are just totally silent still. And I just kind of sat there on the picnic table in this park going, Arthur, where are you? I need to find you. This is going to, almost 3,000 flags. How am I going to find you? Well, in this field of totally dead flags, one flag starts waving. Starts waving. And then as I'm going, Arthur, is that you? It can't be true, really? And, and I was going, really true? And it just starts picking up more momentum. One flag. And I walk out there, and sure enough, it was Arthur.
Wow.
So I was able to find his flag right away so I could take it home. But that is the power. It's like, people have those kind of experiences all the time. Some share, some don't. But that's the power of this. There's many wonderful fundraising events out there, right? And many different ones to fit different needs for your fundraising efforts. But I'm telling you what, this one is different. It's inspired. The American flag represents all of us. And I think that's kind of the thing that makes us incredibly unique. And we honor and remember individuals that have sacrificed and given their all, or just continue to serve, and military or teachers or ministers or whatever. So anyway,
absolutely.
I tried to warn you before we started. I rambled on.
That was a beautiful story, though.
It was.
I got so many stories to tell, but so anyway, I wish stories like that on everybody.
Well, I agree. And yeah, I'm glad you made that point, because you're right. It's a fundraiser and it's public awareness. But when you're out there in the field, and I've been, to some of the fields, and yes, when you sit there and you meet the people who come to look for a flag or come to honor a person and a loved one, and you hear the stories, it just brings you back to what this is really all about and the value that clubs can bring to their community by hosting a field.
If you didn't make $1 off of these fields, which people do, they typically do really well. But those stories are worth $1 million.
Absolutely. And the feeling, then they talk about that feeling for years. So, Stacy, what's next for Colonial Flag when the fields end on 9/11 and you get through Veterans Day? What do you see as the future for this model?
We're always growing and evolving and adding new things. We really want to start breaking into more educational programs that can be included in these for our children, because I think our children lack in the schooling system for what we can provide them out in these fields. They can come to these fields and learn about people in their own communities, about the sacrifices they've made, and what it took for them to have everything they have, So I would like to start incorporating that, and maybe including some other programs where veterans can come and speak and tell stories, so there's just a lot going on, that we're always got. I mean, we've got lists. Son's got files of things that we just pick and pull through our little slow time, to add and enhance, and as we continue to talk to all the new fields this year, all the fields, it's fun because we're just like hear all their great, wonderful success stories, and then ask them, well, what do you think made that successful? Is there stuff you can share with us that we can share with the other exchange clubs to maybe help them, and what I love about exchange is they're always so willing to do that and to help. And you even see it at the conventions when we're there at your convention. It's like all our event hosts take over our booth and they start talking. It's like, all right, I'll just sit back.
I love that.
I'm gonna go get a coffee.
Right. Yes.
They're just so passionate, the ones that have hosted it, and they've even gone to other exchange clubs and presented it, so. And it's just so much fun to watch how close knit you guys are, and how you guys help each other, and we're so glad to be part of that and to help you guys succeed in all of the projects that you guys do for all the communities, So, it's just a perfect partnership. I do agree with Sawn there.
Yes, and thank you for everything you've done to make sure the clubs can be successful at that. So many of our clubs, who do host the healing fields, that's their identity in their community.
It's a good point.
Yeah.
So,
it's more of a legacy, and they become more of a community project, because if they don't hold that event, they're going to hear about it from
That's true.
That's so true. And we've had groups to say, well, we were only going to do it for this 1 year, but then their town or their city starts saying, well, aren't you guys going to do the flags again?
Right.
I mean, it becomes like, we pretty much have to do them again.
Yes,
definitely.
And that's value that you all have brought to those communities. So you should be very proud.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your love for patriotism, your belief in this model, and your partnership and support. We appreciate the Swenson family and you too, Stacy, for being so enthusiastic and supportive of exchange. And on behalf of our whole network, thank you. And please give our best to Paul and Elizabeth, and have a really memorable and significant 9/11 and Veterans Day. And we look forward to all of the pictures and all the feedback.
Right.
For sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for all you it's been such a wonderful experience getting to know more about the National Exchange Club and what they're involved with, and listening to the different speeches and whatnot at the conventions, and over the years being involved with each individual club to see what they bring to the table. Yeah. And, I say that because in this day and age, we all know, what is, turn on the TV or radio and you know what we get. But so it's so nice to be able to know that there are people like this out there in the world and in the country, and we get to work with the best of the best, which is all you folks that just want to continue doing great things and make a difference. And boy, what a refreshing experience.
That's what it's about. So if people want to learn more, how should they contact you?
They can go to our website at healingfield.org, or they can contact us by phone, which is the 801-256-3639, or they can email us directly. Mine's Stacy, Stacy, at healingfield.org, or Sawn, SAWN, at healingfield.org.
Awesome.
Lots of options.
Yes.
Great.
Well, you're easy to reach and easy to work with, and we appreciate you. And thanks so much for your support. If you're listening and you want to learn more about Exchange, please visit nationalexchangeclub.org, and definitely reach out to our partners at Colonial Flag Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, ladies.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate you.